are #1 in not getting our kids vaccinated. #1 in America. So basically our state is an outbreak waiting to happen. And our kindergarten vaccination rates, we learned today, continue to drop. For measles, mumps, and rubella, for hepatitis B, polio, and chickenpox. So today, Democratic Governor Jared Polis signed an executive order on vaccinations. This is hardly a shot in the arm, it's more like a soft nudge. But listen to the shade of the day that the governor threw at anti-vaxxers.
You know, when I was inaugurated, I pledged to build a Colorado for all. That means a Colorado for Christian Scientists, a Colorado for people who don't want to get vaccinations, and a Colorado for parents who care about the health of their kids and don't want measles outbreaks in their school.
Ooh, geez, were you listening to that? That was pretty harsh there. Polis's order today does not require anything of parents, kids, or schools. It does require the health department to study why parents aren't vaccinating, how to better educate the public, and to look at possible incentives for doctors. Nothing that happened today requires one more kid to be vaccinated. But if you want to know where kids are and are not protected from infectious diseases in our state, our Marshall Zellinger found a website that has all the information you'd ever want.
You can look at DTaP, Hep B, MMR, polio, and varicella, which is the chickenpox vaccination.
Preventable diseases are at your fingertips. Well, the data about who is vaccinating their kids and who isn't.
They can look at vaccination rates by vaccine, by county, by school district, and even by school, so they're properly educated and they understand where they might want to send their kids or not. So here is where you can actually compare facilities.
There's a website, covaxrates.org, that can help you know what school districts and even what schools have the highest vaccination rates and where students have exemptions, and whether those exemptions are personal, religious, or medical. It does not tell you who the students are. So what are you as a parent, a student, or a medical provider supposed to do with this data?
One of the things that I personally say from my experience was I had a daughter who was premature and spent a month in the NICU, and so she was too frail or young also to get vaccination. So we wanted to make sure that the community around her was adequately vaccinated since she was not protected from these illnesses. And so really the same concept, it's a public health concept of cocooning to protect those who can't protect themselves.
It's not meant to be a public shaming. State law requires this data to be shared with the public.
It's just there because it's transparent. It's being open and honest with what our rates are.
There are really a lot of neat features with this website. Like I said, you can search by your individual school district or school. You can also use a search function, which I've already set up for time purposes. I typed in the word Boulder. I clicked on a very specific Boulder school, but then it brings up this map of circles and triangles. The circles are other schools, the triangles are daycare centers. So you can just search in your area where people are vaccinated the most, or students, and where maybe they aren't. And it takes a little bit of time for some of this data to pop up. Of course, it's going to happen on live TV. It is amazing, Kyle, how much data that the state has collected here. But what do you do with this information? Is it to tell you what school to go to, or to suggest to your neighbors, hey, maybe you should get vaccinated? As the doctor from the public health department told me, it's for those perhaps that can't get vaccinated because of medical problems, just to give them an idea of maybe where they should and shouldn't hang out.
If there's one thing that Americans love to do these days, it is to cluster together with other like-minded Americans. So you can imagine that some parents would use this information to pull their kids out of school, or to bring more unvaccinated kids into a school that already has low rates, which obviously then raises the risk for any immunocompromised kids or kids that can't get vaccinated.
And it's important to note some of this data does talk about which ones are exempt and for what reasons people are exempt, because there are a few reasons people choose not to be vaccinated: medical, personal, religious. That is their choice. And as the governor said today, he's pro-choice. He's not going to tell someone else what to do, but then he'll throw shade at the same time.
And my daughter's years from school, but I'm going to go look at our neighborhood school tonight. All right, thank you, Marshall. A special word of appreciation and admiration this evening for CBS 4 and Denver 7 and Fox 31 and the Denver Post and every other media outlet in town, all of which have not signed the Denver police agreement trading our editorial control for access to their police scanners. We told you last night that DPD plans to encrypt its scanners, saying that the public should not be able to hear sensitive information. They're willing to give journalists a way to listen in, but only if we allow Denver police the ability to decide what of it we can share with you. DPD told us today that not a single media outlet agreed to those terms by today's deadline. I understand the argument for encryption, and if DPD wants to take away public access to the scanners, I can understand that too. I have a tougher time understanding why any journalist would agree to let the government decide what we can report to you at home. DPD says it's still negotiating with attorneys representing media outlets. That, of course, is above my pay grade, but my 2 cents are that I'm proud that Denver's media pushed back in defense of your right to information, which is guided by ethical and responsible journalism and not by government dictates. Denver's new clerk and recorder comes into office with some firsthand experience with close races. The current clerk signed off on the results today, and with that, Paul Lopez wins the race. 397 votes ahead of Peg Pearl. Lopez avoids an automatic recount by 34 votes. Since Election Day, they've been counting military and overseas ballots and also the ballots of people who had to come in to fix signature issues. Just because we don't see human trafficking in Colorado does not mean that we don't have human trafficking in Colorado. It is happening at bus stops, at schools, at motels. Our Anusha Roy takes a look at a new law specifically designed to change that.
Human trafficking hovers so deep in the shadows, some people in Colorado don't believe it exists in their communities.
We had a case just here in Jefferson County of a mother who was convicted of human trafficking her own 12-year-old daughter.
Maria Trujillo with the state will tell you the opposite.
In Conejos County of an older man who recruited a intellectually developmentally challenged young woman in Oklahoma and brought her to Colorado and used her as a domestic servant.
She also noticed an obvious gap that not everyone who needs it is getting the training to spot a victim. That became the motivation behind a new Colorado law.
Law enforcement across the state, especially in rural areas, have limited resources to training for human trafficking.
Denver police set up a human trafficking team. The Denver District Attorney's Office did the same. And RTD trains their bus drivers as well.
And the spot had happened.
But not everyone has those resources.
They have maybe 4 or 5 people within an agency, and they may not have the capacity to send their folks to a 2-hour training.
The responsibility is not just for law enforcement to watch for this, but healthcare providers, social workers, even teachers who can become the front line to protect kids.
We also have students who are recruiters for traffickers within the school system.
So that is why this training is open to school districts and other groups besides law enforcement. It's also going to be available online for individual people as well. It is free. That is the whole point of this. You can just reach out to the Colorado Human Trafficking Council. Kyle, they say they are already ready to help out.
And in terms of being able to put hard numbers on this, difficult.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's a kind of an unsatisfactory answer, right? But a couple of years ago, we had a couple of law changes that helped identify what human trafficking is better. So that helped with prosecution. But the second part of this is just hopefully tracking this better so we understand how often it is happening in Colorado.
All right, Anusha, thank you. Former Governor John Hickenlooper's presidential campaign is going just as we predicted, as he campaigns against the evils of socialism. That, of course, is not what anyone predicted, but with Senator Bernie Sanders driving the debate to the left, Hicks trying to carve out a position as the Democratic Party's last capitalist standing.
I fundamentally disagree that we should do away with the democratic, regulated capitalism that has guided this country for over 200 years. This position is shared by many of my Democratic colleagues, but for some reason, our party has been reluctant to express directly its opposition to democratic socialism. In fact, the Democratic field has not only failed to oppose Senator Sanders' agenda, but they've actually pushed to embrace it.
Senator Sanders took time to respond directly to Hickenlooper today, which is a great win for Hick. But with all due respect to our former governor, Sanders is really punching down in the polls to do that. Speaking of polls, NBC News and the Democratic National Committee have their list of 20 presidential candidates who made the first primary debates, and both Hickenlooper and Senator Michael Bennet are in. 2 nights of debates. They're going to split up the front runners, but Hick and Bennet might end up side by side on June 26th or 27th. We're getting some feedback on last night's segment about a same-sex flamingo pair at the Denver Zoo. Stephen wrote in offering homophobic slurs and suggesting that I be institutionalized. Dean thoughtfully wrote, "Gay flamingos? Selling your soul to advance your political agenda, Kyle. No wonder your eyes look like black holes." Guys, My dudes, you are all lathered up because a couple of male flamingos at the zoo prefer each other's company? Dean, a same-sex flamingo pair is not a threat to your masculinity or your marriage. They are not going to turn your pet bird gay. Don't like same-sex bird relationships? Well, then don't be in a same-sex bird relationship, Stephen. You do your thing, all right? Just let the birds do theirs. I cannot believe that we have to have this conversation. Coming up on Nest, if hikers and mountain bikers can't get along, maybe they just need to be separated. Jeffco's going to try it.
There's a few people that are like, wow, that's so cool, and a lot of people that are like, why is he doing that?
Yes, why is he running 35 miles a day, coast to coast? There's a very good reason. A group of Jeffco Park Rangers are some of the good ones, you know, vast majority of public servants who do the right thing day in and day out without notice. These folks are trying to keep the peace on the Apex Trail in Golden. Rangers say there was a fight on the trail and they want to make sure that people are getting along. There have been some conflicts between bicyclists and hikers. So they were out giving the bicyclists bells that they can have to warn people when they're coming up on a trail. And they also spent some time out there talking to people about trail etiquette. Over in White Ranch Park, there should be fewer confrontations between cyclists and hikers, at least on one section of the Longhorn Trail. For the past year, the county's been testing out a mile-long section of the trail as a one-way mountain bike-only trail. The county says it's been so successful, they're going to make the Middle Longhorn Trail permanent.
Longhorn is a trail out at White Ranch Open Space, and Longhorn is now mountain biker only. My name is Tony Bentley, and I am the founder and president of the Coloradis Mountain Bike Crew. So the Coloradis and the Golden Giddy Up were instrumental. We've persistently been advocating for some biker-only trails. It was a long time coming. Mountain bikers, of course, have been trying to have these conversations with Jefferson County for a number of years. We feel pretty ecstatic that we've accomplished one of our goals in getting that biker-only trail.
Thank you.
So when it was a multi-use trail, it was open to all trail users. So anybody could go up or down the trail, and it was open to whatever method of recreating you like to do, whether that was horseback riding, biking, hiking, trail running. So at times with multi-use trails, you do have some user conflict where if people aren't yielding the right-of-way appropriately, if they're not following the rules of the trail, sometimes there can be conflict. We feel like having that designated mountain biker only section does make it safer for other trail users. Currently, I believe there's 20 plus miles of hiker only trail in Jefferson County open space, and we have about 1 mile of mountain biker only designated. For us, we feel like it's a huge win. This is the first time ever that Jefferson County Open Space has done a mountain biker only section of trail. And so to see the sport progressing, to see the sport growing for men, for women, for young kids, it's really cool that we can have a place that it's just bikes only and we can go out and share that with our friends and family.
Middle Longhorn Trail will be closed for some maintenance work early next week. Then Wednesday, it reopens as one-way mountain bike only on a permanent basis.
After a wonderful break, thunderstorms are back in the forecast tonight and again tomorrow. But even with the late day cloud cover, nearly a record high temperature in Denver today, 86. That is above the average of 82. And we're tracking some strong thunderstorms tonight that are moving from the northwest to the southeast. A severe cell in Elbert County near Kiowa, Elizabeth, and Callahan has dropped a little bit of small hail, damaging wind and a brief heavy downpour. These thunder showers return tomorrow after moving out tonight. The ridge is breaking down in response to what we call a trough of low pressure, and a bit of an unsettled weather picture shaping up for the upcoming weekend. Storms move out tonight, return tomorrow afternoon, and Storm Prediction Center has areas east of Lyman and Akron in the hail area or the severe storms area for tomorrow. Partly cloudy, 56 overnight tonight. Tomorrow with sunshine, a high back in the 80s. Cooler for the weekend, 70s. Chance for rain from storms both Saturday and Sunday. A warming trend heading into the middle part of next week. And first pitch forecast, 73 degrees with a little bit of wind and lightning out there when our Rockies take the field.
Kathy, thank you. On this Throwback Thursday, we remember a retired Broomfield police commander who served our community for nearly 4 decades. His name was Commander Dale Sarno. Spent the last few years in retirement. He passed away recently after a fight with cancer. Sarno was riding his horse back in the Broomfield Days Parade in the early 1980s. It's a photo the police department shared. Another from the Broomfield Enterprise, Sarno when he was hired in 1978. He was with Broomfield PD for the long haul. He served on the force for 39 years. Next, we meet a man who is running from Los Angeles to New York, coming through our neck of the woods, averaging a marathon a day. But he's got good reason to run. Next. There's a man on a cross-country road trip without his car. Noah is running coast to coast, 35 miles a day, running to raise money for kids in foster care. He started in Los Angeles, and today he's running through the Denver metro area. He's on his way to New York City. Our Katie Eastman, photojournalist Chris Hansen caught up with him.
Another runner in Colorado. Not exactly anything new. But this runner has more than 1,000 miles behind him.
I don't feel like I've done anything special other than just get up and do it.
1,000 miles, and Noah Fredenberg just keeps going. As the cars come too close.
And I was walking right on the white line, and the semi just slammed right past me. That's kind of scary.
The tan lines grow starker.
Oh man, that's gross.
And the maps lead him onto private property.
And I was like, thank you, I'm running for charity. Running for the kids. And there was a sign on the way out that said $500 reward for anyone who can provide information that would convict a trespasser.
The owners let him through. But the charity bit isn't just an excuse. It's the reason.
You know, kids in foster care have nobody. You know, their families have told them that they're not wanted. And that's not true, you know? That's a lie. And I don't think love should be something that you have to fight for or manipulate for. And that's kind of a lie that's been told to them.
Noah will run from LA to New York in 121 days and try to raise $121,000 in hopes that kids in foster care have a better chance of being adopted and cared for before they turn 21. He's not a social worker or a therapist, but he can run.
Yeah, why am I running? Because I like to run.
He's using his miles to start a movement.
That all of these miles that I'm running, it's to make sure that you know that you can change the world. You can be whoever you want to be.
Noah is another runner in Colorado.
I just don't want to be a bystander.
Who will soon have 3,200 miles behind him. For Next, I'm Katie Eastman.
If you're thinking, how can he do that day after day? Noah rests 1 day a week. By the end of his trip, he will average running a marathon every day for 121 days. Your feedback on flamingophobia is next. A couple of you, including Ann and Danielle, wrote in wanting to know if you could donate to Noah's Coast to Coast fundraising run for foster kids. Promise you that information will be in that article on 9news.com. Janet DeBell writes in to say, your response to the flamingophobic viewers was perfect. JBM, though not happy, thinks I was wordy tonight. He said, say it with me, permanently, on a permanent basis. Not needed. Okay, fair enough. He goes on, and it's ironic that journalists, JBM, you made your point. Don't want to be wordy. See you next time.